Still Wednesday, July 21st. I think I recorded this morning, I think. But I just, it's been a relaxing day. Not how I had planned. I had planned to go packing, go back to my apartment and pack, but the gardener never came. No, the pool man never came. He was supposed to come. He didn't show up. And I didn't want to leave because I was in charge of unlocking and locking the gate. So I ended up staying and hanging out in the house. And I slept like half the day. I was still in pain. And for whatever reason, my arms were still hurting. And I think it's because at night I haven't been resting really well. And so, yeah. So I just took it easy today. So Mochi and I just kind of hung out. She slept as well. Like we were both asleep most of the day, and I got some more of like the paperwork turned in for the new job, and contacting people for like, letters of rec and getting that all set up, and just finalizing things here and there. And so as I'm resting, I decided, okay, I'm gonna watch some TV, right? I mentioned that I don't usually watch TV, and this week has kind of been like kind of relaxing, but at the same time I'm working. I spoke to my mentor today, and I was telling her, I was just like, it's funny, like my body is just like, it's definitely shifting. And I told her, I'm like, it's like it's telling me like, you're not supposed to do any more work. You're supposed to be attended to. And I was just kidding. But she's like, no, you should be. You should not have to like do any hard labor anymore. Like people need to be doing stuff for you. So I'm just like, okay, but I still need to work and function and pay bills. So anyways, so I came across a movie yesterday actually, and I didn't finish watching it, and I wanted to finish watching it today, and it was called Chavela. And it's a documentary, or what is that? Yeah, when it's an documentary, or so it's Chavela Vargas, and I had never heard of her. She looked familiar, and her music was familiar, but I'm terrible when it comes to names, artist names, and just singer, names. Like I'm horrible at remembering names, and I think I might have mentioned this before. There's this sense of like, I feel disrespectful when I am appreciating some type of art form, and I can't for the life of me remember who the artist is, or like I feel disrespectful. And so I'm listening to this story of Chavela, and listening to the music, and just I feel it. I feel I feel it. I'm feeling the whole story, her story, and her music, and I'm in tears because I feel the feelings. I feel it, like it's just, and I would get chills watching the movie. I felt it, and I was triggered, right? This sense of like hearing her story, and born in 1919, died in 2019, I think, and just seeing the time period, and hearing what it was like to grow up, and her role in Mexico, and just the transformation that she experienced, right? As an individual, as a woman, as a lesbian, as an artist, as a musician, as an alcoholic, as a lover, the impression that she left on the people who would hear her music. And the impression that she left on me as I'm like, hearing about her for the first time, but yet there's familiarity with the songs, right? Growing up and just connecting really with the heart of the message that's being conveyed, and longing. And then there's this like I just longing, like I want to sing with my mom. Like there was this desire. I'm like, my mom sings from her heart, and I'll see if I can include a clip. I have to ask for her permission, but I recorded her singing once, and I need to actually check to see if I still have it. But she sings from her heart, and me realizing I'd love to sing with my mom one day, like where we practice a song together and just kind of sing from our heart, and wanting to tell her that I want to do that with her. But just the connection, right, to this culture. And I've mentioned it before, how I was triggered when I was in San Francisco to reconnect with that part of myself that I felt, that I didn't realize I was missing. So after that movie ended, I watched another movie that was called Truly Texas Mexican. Yeah, Truly Texas Mexican. And it was on food, Tex-Mex food, and the root of that, really. And then it had addressed the indigenous people and colonization and food and art and connection to earth and labels, right? Everything that I was kind of struggling with, I've been struggling with inside, about my own identity and how I was raised, and certain foods that they talked about. I was like, oh, I do remember that. Glimpses, right, of my past coming up, and thinking about my grandparents, and realizing, I don't know if I've shared, my grandparents from both sides, my mom and my dad, are very light skin, very, very light skin. And they both have like green blue eyes, hazel, like green eyes, brown hazel. It's more hazel. Well, on my dad's side, it's more blue. And wondering about my past, my ancestors, and where I come from, right? And there's this sense of like that I might be of Spanish descent as well, or a mestizo almost. Mestiza? I don't know. Like, I'm not good with the language, but then I remembered, I'm like, I want to know. And I tried, it's just, a lot of things were coming up for me in terms of just where I come from and this history that I'm trying to put back together for myself at the same time, and having bits and pieces of it, and there's this disconnect, right? I don't know if I mentioned I was raised closer to my mom's side of the family, and with my dad's side of the family, there was, because of all the drama almost, like there was this like, I need to keep my distance, right? A safe distance where I can interact but at a distance, because of the drama. And I think I can speak freely when I say that a lot of my cousins on my dad's side, there's this disconnect with our parents, like a safe distance because of the drama. And the drama is really trauma. That's really what it is. It's intergenerational trauma that's being played out. And I know this because one of the roles that I had when I was married was this need to bring the families together, bridge this disconnection, and so I played a big part of my role in my family, and as well as my partner's family, was to host these large events around community, around holidays, or to instill that sense of culture, that sense of like community and just getting together and having a good time, right? Because there was a time in our lives where there wasn't any of that, because of the trauma, because of the separations that were occurring at that time. And so I did that with my dad's side of the family, but with my cousins, and it was just the cousins. I didn't really invite like my parents or their parents, and there was this sense of like, I realized I think 90% of us did not have, there was a strain in our relationship with our parents because of the intergenerational trauma that existed. And then I remember my mom's side of the family, I don't know if I mentioned, so my mom and my aunt, the oldest aunt, who's kind of like now the matriarch of our family, they married into my dad's family. And so it's like my aunt, who is the matriarch now and the oldest of my mom's side of the family, married my dad's older brother, who's now the patriarch, because my grandparents on both sides have passed. And so it's the oldest married the oldest, and then my mom had married my dad. And so it was a small town, and there's talk of oh, you stay away from that side of the family. Like they were discouraged, like my mom and my aunt were discouraged from really engaging with the other side of the family because of the history of that family, of the root of this family. And I guess there was and then I wonder, I mean, if back then they were hearing it from their great grandparents, like I wonder what that history was that caused this like judgment, really, this judgment on this family, and why they were encouraged to stay away, right? To stay away from them, that they were kind of like bad news. And so so I remember growing up and hearing that, and that was always talk amongst the women. So my mom's side of the family, because I grew up more with them, and I mentioned this before, like there's some similarities with the Mexican culture, and then there isn't. Like I didn't grow up a typical Mexican, but some of the parts that were consistent, I guess, culturally is food and to a certain degree, right? I mean, food existed, and the relationship with food and what it brought in terms of sitting around the table and talking, but the types of food were somewhat different sometimes. Sometimes it was the same, like, you know, we had mole con arroz and frijoles, but then there was like this nutritional part to it that I've mentioned before. But this concept of storytelling and being around the table and sharing and just talking, really, like, I mean, I remember that was something that my partner struggled with when we would go visit my aunt and my grandparents, because that's all we did. We would eat and then just talk and sit at the table. And then on special occasions was when my mom would sing. And that happened more after my grandparents passed. But I remember that. And I remember he struggled with that, because his family never talked. They didn't communicate at all in that way. And there was always distractions in that family setting, where it was very much like the video games were playing and the kids. I think because there were more, well, no, we had kids too, but the activities, it was just different. It was a different feel. Because even when it was a smaller family reunion, he struggled, and he never really sat around the table with us to engage in that cultural, like, let's talk, let's just, you know, reminisce and share stories, and so what was I going with that? So that's what was brought up for me when I'm watching these movies. It's just this compare and contrast, right, of parts of my life and what I'm longing for, right, and this connection that I'm missing, and and the movie and that truly Texas Mexican was really more around food and the art around food and interviewing these families and how they identified themselves with the indigenous people and the challenges that they went through with colonization as well. And then after that movie was over, there was this connection to earth and recognizing this pull that I've always had to Native American art and culture and just that energy of connectedness to nature. I mean, I remember growing up in middle school and my favorite animal was a buffalo. It was a buffalo. And I loved it. And then now as an adult, like an elephant is my favorite animal. Like there's this notion of this grand beast, this living organism that's huge but gentle at the same time is so beautiful in the paradox that it represents, right? The symbolism behind what you see, right? And then the behavior and the energy, really, the energy from this living being, right? And so all of this is being triggered in me. And then I get to another video that pops up called Tattoo Nation. Because it's just this evolvement, right? This evolvement of how the influence has been and shifted and changed and it's still connected. It's still all interconnected, right? And the limits and restrictions. I mean, I never knew that tattoo used to be against the law. So that was a first for me. And I'm diving into this history, if you will, untapped history for me, because I never made the time for it, right? And I'm excited and thinking about this next chapter in my life, right? As I'm bringing this chapter to a close and starting this next chapter on my own up north, and then realizing the paradox in that, where it's like there's this alignment that I'm feeling with my line of work that I'm wanting to now embrace, feeling the pull to start so soon, and feeling the need or feeling the pull to do that in San Francisco for whatever reason. Like my heart was just like full when I was there, and it felt right. It felt right for me to move out there to start this chapter there. And then remembering the connection that I longed for and that I felt with my culture there. and so there's this paradox of like feeling aligned there, but still wanting to explore my roots. And then realizing, why am I having to explore my roots away from home? Away from my family, like Southern California, right? I have family in Tijuana. I have family. This is where I was raised, but yet still feeling this pull to move up north to feel connected. It's just, I'm trying to figure out that paradox. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? You would think if I'm wanting to explore those parts of myself, I would stay here. But for whatever reason, I don't feel it here. I don't know why. I don't feel it here. But there, I felt it there. And it's just the weirdest thing, having to be away from my family to feel it. I don't know. I'm trying to like wrap my mind around that and trying to make sense of that. And then at the same time, it's just a part of me, I think, that I'm just puzzle pieces, right? Like I mentioned that there was a point where I tried to do what is that called, my family tree. My family tree. I tried to do that once with my aunt and my uncle because they're the oldest, and I'm just like, okay, give me names, trying to backtrack, but then feeling kind of stuck almost because I could only go so far. But even then, that's just names, right? It's, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I guess it's still trying to explore parts of myself, maybe. And then the funny thing is, a couple funny things. One, this fire sign that I'm going to hang out with on Saturday. I remember him telling me that he did a DNA thing to find out where he was from. He's like, you should do it. And I'm like, maybe I should, to really like maybe get some answers that route. Yeah. So that came up. I was just laughing because today was all about that part of myself, and then thinking about what I'm going to do in the next couple of days, just planning out the next few days. I'm like, oh, that's right, he's coming down on Saturday and we're going to hang out and just, right, just seeing that connection there. And then and then I already scheduled the next video to post tomorrow, but the video that I was preparing and considering, I'm still considering and debating whether or not to post it the following day. I'm actually talking about that show High on the Hog, and that connection that I felt to, you know, that culture, right? The Black and African American culture, and feeling, right, those images that I got, and just that pull there, the connection there, and believing that I have a past life there, and so it's just funny because it's like, that's the next thing that's coming up, and I'm having this experience today and crying about, I mean, it's been an emotional day, and just like this longing to put these puzzle pieces together, and to continue to fulfill, right, whatever's needing filling. Or exploring those parts of myself, discovering those parts of myself still, and then at the same time still feeling interconnected with everything around me. So it almost like there's this need, but at the same time there isn't a need, because everyone and everything is a mirror, right? It's a mirror. If you choose to look at it in that way, which I'm choosing to. Anyways, that was all. Just that realization. I was just like, wow, like all these things that are coming up culturally, right? For me, and the struggle that I have in terms of my own identity with being very fair skinned, right? And being told that I look Lebanese. And my brother and I both, that we look Lebanese because of our features. And yet, you know, being of Mexican descent, and then being assimilated and acculturated here, and trying to, you know, I speak Spanish very well, but still feeling this disconnect with my culture and the traditional sense of what being Mexican American is, almost, right? Because and the thing is, you would think that it would be something like, oh, third, fourth generation Mexican. No, like my dad was 7 when he came here. My mom was 21 when she moved here. So it's not like this, like my children's children, where they've lost that disconnect. This is like first, second generation. Like it's not that far off from the root of transitioning over, but yet still feeling like I have, probably because of my own choices, right? Growing up, of wanting to not address that. And I do remember there was a time in my life where there was shame in speaking Spanish, and I'm trying to remember why. And I don't know if it was just this, it's possible that there was this just underlying need to want to belong, you know? And I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I don't know if I mentioned that. I really didn't. I was an outsider for most of my life, and very quiet, very reserved. And even in school, like, I was made fun of because of my name. And I remember even with my lunch, like, my mom would not want us to eat lunch, but then we would have like egg sandwiches, or we'd have egg sandwiches. I'm like, ew, this is gross. I mean, it was yummy, but there was a sense of embarrassment almost of having to eat that at school. And then I remember there was this Indian girl in my second grade class, and she was just gorgeous. Like, I remember exactly how she looked. She would have these beautiful, colorful dresses, and I was in awe of her. I just remember I was so in awe of her. I was like in love with her. And she always had a smile, and she always looked so confident. And she would during lunchtime, she would eat. She would have her home cooked meals, traditional meals, authentic Indian meals. And I remember just being in love with the energy that she gave off, and wanting to be like her. I remember that. I remember wanting to be like her, confident, just different, but confident in herself. And I remember I didn't feel like I could. I felt so different, so isolated, so alone. And I didn't have many friends. I had one friend who is still my friend. She's my kindy friend. We've known each other since we were 5. And even then, though, even though we were friends, we didn't play together because we weren't in the same class. So we sometimes had different recess times. But oftentimes she was more girly. I remember that was one of the biggest differences. Like, she hung out with like a lot of the girly girls, and I didn't. I was either a loner or I was playing tag football. I would play tag football with the 6th grade boys. And I remember even that experience was difficult because no one liked me. No one liked me. I remember always being picked last, and I remember thinking, I'm not gonna let them see that it bothers me, right? I'm still gonna play the game. And I'll never forget the one best play I ever had where I intercepted the football and then I ran to like score a touchdown. I was so close to it. I remember the other team, and it was with a group of tomboys. So I felt like I identified as a tomboy. And then it was the 6th grade boys. And I remember they were pissed. They're pissed at me, and I'm just like, that's what you get for picking me last. I remember that. And I remember being proud of myself for not giving up, for sticking that out. But I remember I didn't have friends. Not at that school until I moved into a much smaller school setting, and then I thrived a little bit more. And even then, it was still challenging for me to make friends. It was kind of like a fortunate situation, the friends that I did make at first. And then after that, it came a little easier. But anyways, yeah, I just wanted to share that, and that I'm still working on trying to find the pieces of myself for that. I don't know. Ultimate goal, maybe of feeling complete and whole. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why there's this need, this pull to explore that part of my life a little more. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. Yeah, in San Francisco. I don't know why. I don't know how, but that's where I'm being drawn to, so we'll see how that goes. Bye. My name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learn to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us. In whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth, this just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and I wish you all the best, and we'll see what else comes next for me. So take care.